What helped you emotionally to round yourself and to find strength in those moments?
I really didn't. Nothing helped me find strength. At that time, I was severely depressed. I attempted suicide. Till this day, years later, my arms are covered in scars of me cutting myself every single day. All I wanted to do in that time was to end my life and to not be here. And uh,
Violetta, when I saw you right before the interview, I was like, I didn't know I have a model coming in for my interview today. You're
Too kind.
gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you are from Russia. Are you ethnically Russian?
Yes.
Okay, so you're ethnically Russian.
Ethnically, you mean as though, of course, I'm like half and half, but I was born in Russia and I'm 28 now, and I've lived in Russia for about like 12 years. I lived there and then 15 years here.
So your mom and your dad both are Russian.
No, my mother's Russian and my father's from Azerbaijan.
Gotcha. Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful mix. I want to start with a bit of a background and learn more and have the audience learn more about you as a baby, Violetta.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit, what was it like growing up as a baby, just a baby in Russia?
I completely don't really remember too much of my childhood until probably the point of maybe I was like 5 or 6. I had an incredible grandmother, Babushka Maria, that I owe my life to. She took care of me. Unfortunately, um, she was handicapped for a long time, ever since she was a little girl, and so she did the best she could. I've really lived in the middle of a village, not even a village, honestly, a street in the middle of the Russian forest somewhere near Pskov, and she really did the best she could to take care of me until the point where a company had come that was based from the orphanage that I didn't know at the time and had kind of basically kidnapped me into going into my first orphanage in another part of Russia that I'm not really sure what that may be. It was also very desolate in the middle of nowhere. And so I don't really remember so much being a baby, but I remember for sure I was very, very loved and I was in the best hands that I could have at that point in time.
When was the first time or the first memory where you felt your national identity?
Um, I think just like my babushka Maria, since she was being handicapped, she of course can only do so many things around the house, but she would have me do chores outside and maybe go check on the chickens and things like that. So I just remember really loving my life and being so happy just doing the simplest thing and maybe like raking the yard or going and checking on the vegetables and eating the delicious apples from the tree. So that's what I remember probably my first memory of that.
Yeah, when we're kids, we don't need so many things to be happy, right?
Yes, yes.
So you went to school as well in Russia?
Yes, but I had only gone in the orphanage, my second orphanage. My first orphanage had no kind of schooling. And then my second orphanage, they had forced us into a school, like a public school with normal children, which was quite difficult because, we were starved and we had no real clothes and we had nothing to really make us look presentable. So that was really tough because, of course, bullying and things like that happened. And then also, my orphanage had a school that was inside the orphanage that wasn't the best either. It was really surrounded by abuse and things like that. It wasn't really meant to teach you anything. It was more just, I don't know, they wanted to maybe do something or maybe to the outside world look like they were doing something, but they definitely weren't doing anything good for us.
For people that don't know your story, can you tell us a little bit, how did you end up in the first orphanage?
It was because my grandmother, great grandma Bushka Maria, was handicapped, and I believe there would be like random people that would come into the little village, I'd say, that would come into it and see everybody and things. And I think anybody that had come in had seen that she's handicapped and she isn't able to take care of me, and there was nowhere near a school near me. There was no town. There was no way of kind of anything. And so I believe somebody had gone into, maybe told somebody with the orphanage business or whatever that may be. And I believe she had some kind of idea that was happening because I felt like she was shocked whenever I came and was got, but she wasn't so shocked to the point that I was. So maybe that was something that she had known about, but it was just a random day and I was picked up in a car and I was transported to my first orphanage. And yeah, I lived there for a while until it was too occupied, until I had to be moved to the next one.
To people in America, that sounds an outrageous story. It sounds like a kidnapping story.
Yeah.
At that time, did you feel like you were kidnapped?
Oh, absolutely. My babushka Maria was the best thing in the world to me, and she was the only thing I knew. And I remember sitting outside of her house, and I do feel like she knew about it a little bit because she seemed like she got me ready for something, but I just wasn't sure what. And a car came and it was a man and a woman and they just pretty much shoved me in the car and I was screaming hysterically. I was crying and screaming. And of course, my great grandmother's handicapped. So, I mean, she also was so distraught, but she couldn't really do too much to kind of grab me or take me away. So, that experience was terrible, especially because they didn't explain to me where I was going in the car. And I was just dropped off at this orphanage and kind of able to fend for myself from there on. So, yes.
If you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit what happened right after you got to the first orphanage?
I mean, I just saw a complete and utter chaos. There was no kind of discipline or anything that was going on. They had people that were meant to be our staff who were supposed to look after us and be our guardians, but those staff were also just as much included in our abuse and everything like that. So, I mean, it was really just children running around and just being so sick, just like so sick, and we were starved. And the staff that were meant to be there, they would either allow the abuse of the other child upon you to happen, or they would also just beat you to a point where you couldn't function. So it was just complete and utter chaos. That was really you trying to survive every single day. And yeah, just fighting every single day. That's pretty much all it was, yes.
What time would you wake up?
I don't remember specifically what time they had us wake up, but probably like 6, 7 in the morning. It was quite early. And then sometimes they would feed us in the morning, sometimes not. It really depended.
What did you eat?
We had kasha. Just kasha. That was all we were given ever.
I still till today I don't eat it.
Yes. I haven't eaten it since, yeah, of course, the orphanage because it brings up some memories. Maybe I will again, but yeah, I haven't.
I mean, the kasha has to be fancy for me to eat it again.
Yes, that kasha was
Not in the
definitely not good.
original Russian way. I won't eat it. Until what age were you in the first orphanage?
I want to say I was there for maybe like a year and a half or so. It was so difficult at the time. I mean, my mind was so traumatized and so overwhelmed that I really didn't have a specific time. Everything just went by so fast because I was really trying to survive as much as I could. So that's probably what I would say. But I remember the orphanage being too occupied, and so they chose to move me to another one, which was in the center of the city. I believe in Pskov.
Did you ever get into fights?
I personally wouldn't say I like got into fights in terms of trying to hurt anybody, but I definitely had to get into fights to protect myself. I mean, there was times where, I mean, I don't blame any of the girls or boys for hurting each other just because you completely just do not know any better. But there were times where I'd just be sleeping and a girl would come and put a pillow over my head and try to suffocate me. And, a boy would just throw me or hit me or make me bleed and things like that. So, I mean, of course, I always defended myself in that sense, but I never caused harm upon anybody else. There was an instance where I didn't harm anybody, but I had them harmed just because I had to eat. And those are things that I'm definitely not proud of that will forever live with me. But yeah, it was definitely very difficult.
I have a very sensitive question, and it's okay if you don't want to answer. Have you ever seen any sexual abuse going on in the orphanage?
I personally have not myself. Just because I remember a lot of the caretakers being women. I don't remember too many men around us, and I personally was never sexually abused. I was sexually abused outside of the orphanage, but not necessarily in the orphanage. I did not see that, but it may have happened. I wanted to stay as innocent as possible, so I was really not looking for anything more than what I had to deal with on a daily basis.
Did you have visitors?
Visitors? No, my first orphanage I did not. My first orphanage treated me quite worse than the second one, which I will speak about. There was a time where the orphanage staff, they had all kind of reached out to the parents or relative or anybody that could be of any of the children that were there. And those children were taken to their family. I don't know, it was like some kind of holiday or something that they may have decided. But for me, of course, I had my babushka Maria, but they refused to take me to her. So at that point, they left me in this orphanage by myself. And so for a good period, maybe like 2 months or so, I was in this orphanage completely by myself. And I would just look out the gates and I would just like count the cars, which were none, if any, because it's completely desolate in the middle of nowhere. But so no visitors, but I felt like the other children got a little bit more favoritism or something more that I just did not. And I was very confused by that instance as to why I was left alone there. And it was very, very strange. But in my second orphanage, I did have the ability to have visitors, which was my great-grandmother, Babushka Nadia, and she had shortly after that passed away, but she was the only person that was kind of going to visit me, yes.
But what about your parents?
My parents weren't in the picture. My mother, I didn't really know her so well, and I believe that may have met her once or twice when I was very, very little, but I don't remember her very much. I was always told my babushka Maria would never speak so badly about her, but she would tell me that she was quite addicted to drugs and alcohol, and I think she had been sexually abused, so she was in a very sexual environment. She was doing things that she definitely wasn't proud of, and my father, being I think the way that he is, and being Muslim and feeling that he can have as many wives and girlfriends as he wants, I did experience him having those, and I always felt like he chose my brother's way over me. He just didn't really see a purpose in me as a girl, and I think he also didn't have a good relationship with my mother, and so I was kind of pushed away from that side. So
You didn't have any visitors, and except for Babushka Nadia.
yes.
When you, when was it? When it was the time of the holidays? Like, I imagine it was the hardest because kids would go home, right? Or at least had people visit them and bring presents.
It wasn't like that in orphanage for us at all. I remember, of course, I knew what Christmas was when I was Babushka Maria, and um, of course, no Santa came or anything like that. But she did the best she could to like make it as special for me as possible. But in the orphanage, definitely not. It was we honestly didn't even know so much what holidays were. I think we kind of had the idea of Christmas, but our Christmas was just any other day to survive more than a celebration.
Wow, it's crazy when I think about this that sometimes people take holidays for granted when
Absolutely.
literally at this very second, as we're talking about it, there are kids in orphanages that don't have holidays literally coming to them. How was the second orphanage different from the first one?
It wasn't different necessarily in the abuse or anything, but it was different because it was in the middle of a huge city
Mhm.
and there was things around me. It wasn't so desolate. Of course, we were guarded in the gates of this orphanage, but we could see outside and there was life and that made us feel a little bit happier. At least me, made me feel a little bit happier. The school that they had in that orphanage, they had children from a normal life in Russia come there. So I think it was a little bit better because it gave me more hope, even though I was so jealous and I wished so much to be those girls that at the end of the night they could go home to their parents and I had to stay in this terrible place. It gave me more hope that if I just keep pushing, maybe somehow I can get out of this hell.
Yeah. At what age did you stay at that second orphanage?
I stayed there until I got adopted, which was about 11 turning 12.
Okay. So coming up to the adoption period in your life, where were you emotionally?
I was, I think I truly believed for some reason that I don't know. I always had a feeling ever since I was a little girl that I was destined for something, that I was chosen to do something. And so I was really excited. I think a lot of other children that I saw didn't feel that same way. I think a lot of people had given up hope, which is so understandable. And I had had two huge deaths of the most important people in my life right before I was adopted. But I was just still really excited because I felt, even though I mean, the whole adoption process to me, every single person that was a staff, that was a child, that was anybody around me told me that as soon as I come to America, I was going to get killed by my adopted parents and
Really?
people were going to kill me. Absolutely. And I heard that every single day. And of course, that puts fear in your heart. And the other children who had opportunities to be adopted, a lot of them said no, and a lot of them were reluctant back to
No
back.
way.
Mhm.
They refused their.
Yes, they would say yes, and then they would say no because, I mean, there was just so much put on you from the staff, and things are going to kill you. They're going to kill you, and um, at that point, honestly, I was still excited because even though it's so terribly sounding, I would rather have died in America. I would rather have died in a new place than to die in that orphanage. And I'd rather just have taken a chance, and it's the best chance I've ever taken. Mhm.
Wow. Now that you're an adult, do you have an idea of how the process of selecting the parents was?
I don't think it really is anything up to us. I believe it's through the government, and I think Vladimir Putin has a say in some of those things, as I was told. Um, I do believe I was told I had 8 families that were interested in me. I actually had two adoption stories. I am adopted by the family that I am now, but I was adopted by a previous family that had said no to me. So I'd actually come to America once and I was told no, and then I had to go back to Russia, and then the process had to be done again. So I believe they kind of picked maybe the best suitors. I think money had a lot to do with it as well.
The first family that adopted you, um, what was your first impression of them?
Oh, I loved the woman who was supposed to be my mother. I mean, I came to America. They pretty much put us on a plane and they brought us to a church and they called our names. And some strange American family came and told us, "You're going to be with us for like 3 weeks." And I was the luckiest because the woman that I was supposed to be my guardian, she was from Ukraine. So, of course, she spoke Russian. So I felt the luckiest ever because everybody else had had these American families who didn't speak Russian, of course. And all those children felt very lost. And I had the opportunity to like bond with her and speak my language and everything like that. So I absolutely fell in love with her, but unfortunately that situation wasn't able to be made, but I was so excited. I was so excited to be there.
So when you saw your parents for the first time, what was your biggest fear?
My biggest fear? I don't think I really had fear. I think as soon as I spoke to her and she spoke Russian to me and she was just this beautiful person, I really was so excited. I was sad that this was going to be my mother and this was going to be my home.
Oh.
And I think maybe I had some fears back then, but I really don't remember. So I was really just so excited for a new journey, for anything else to happen besides just sit in that orphanage and be abused.
That same day, did you go to their house?
Yes.
Did you have any idea in your head of what an American house looks like?
No, but it was better than I could have ever imagined. I mean, something as simple as like a soft carpet, which I'm here in America, you don't even consider so nice, but I had never stepped on a carpet before. And it was like the best feeling. I'll never forget that feeling for the first step on a carpet. And they had gotten me a beautiful bed. I never had really a bed for myself.
Having your own room, it's huge deal. You slept the first night there.
Yes.
Right? You didn't speak any English.
No, not a word.
Okay. How did you know to tell them, hey, I don't want to eat this food?
I mean, because she spoke Russian, I just spoke Russian about everything. Her husband at the time didn't speak Russian, so he didn't understand us, but we had all of our conversations in Russian.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
So I think it was a good and not so good because I wasn't really learning English when I was supposed to be, but I was speaking my home language, so that was beautiful as well.
How was she as a person?
She was amazing. She was amazing. I mean, I only really knew her for 3 weeks, but she took care of me so well. She really made me feel so comfortable. I mean, all the other children that had come to America with me and they were with their American families, they all wanted to come and be with her and be with me. I mean, of course, the Russian speaking had a large part of it, but she was just so kind and she made us feel so like loved. And I think she really just, I'm not really sure what her story was in Ukraine and where she kind of came from, but I felt like she really sympathized with us in a different way than I think most people could.
Kind of makes me sad that you only spent 3 weeks with her. She sounds like a wonderful person.
Yes, I think that was the cutoff limit. It was 3 weeks, and they had to make the choice of saying, yes, we would like to keep this child or no. And at the end of those 3 weeks, I was so excited. And I thought she was going to say yes. And of course, she wanted to say yes more than anything, but she said that if she had said yes, it would cause marital problems between her and her husband. And her husband, I wouldn't say like showed any hatred towards me, but he definitely, I think, felt a little jealous of our connection. Her and I were together all the time and we were just so bonded and I was just so happy and she was really happy to have me. And so she had to either choose, I think, her marriage or me.
What was he, 14?
I know. I mean, he was quite immature. Now that I look at it, immature even so. I mean, I understand her decision. I respect her decision. She made that decision specifically telling me that another family was interested in me and she felt that that would be a better place for me. So I don't think she would have made that decision if I had nowhere else to go. But I think she really felt security that I was going to go to a good home and she had to make the decision she could.
What happened after?
After that, I was still at their house between those 3 weeks. I remember playing around and everything. And of course, I didn't speak in English. And I remember an American family coming over and they were speaking to my first adopted family. And I didn't understand the word that they were saying as much as I wanted to, but that was the family that was interested in me. That is now my adopted family. And I think they were just kind of overseeing how I am, my personality, and just kind of overseeing me. And my adopted family that I have now had seen me before. When I was first brought to America, they had like some kind of pool party event. And somehow my adopted mother stumbled into one of those. And so she saw me and she said she fell in love with me the second she saw me. And I think she kind of kept up with maybe the adoption process and what was happening with me. So she knew me, but my adopted father now, he had never seen me. And so, yeah, they'd spent some time looking at me. And then I think they went and made their decision and filed the paperwork and everything that had to be done to be the next parents in line.
Did you feel that there was difficulty in transitioning from this family to another family?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my second family, I completely did not feel the same way that I did as soon as I spoke to the adopted mother of mine who spoke Russian and everything like that. I had a very difficult time in my second parents' adopted home. I didn't sleep in the bed for the first night. I sat on the staircase. I mean, they were very well off and they had a very nice life and they had given me everything that I could have ever wanted, the most beautiful bedroom and the toys and everything that I could have wanted. But to me, they didn't speak Russian and they were just foreign to me. And even though I had seen my adopted mother in Russia multiple times, she had come and she had to sign paperwork and all of these things. I just didn't really feel bonded or connected to her in any way. And so it was very, very difficult for me to get accustomed to everything.
I was just picturing that. And that time you were 11, right?
Yes.
That's actually a really hard time as well for you
Mm-hmm.
to be adjusting to a new family. You were just starting to be a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about something good.
Okay. Sure. Let's do that.
So when you I will come back to the second family. What was the first thing that you're like, oh my God, I really like this food that you tried in America? I'll tell you
Let's
for
see.
me,
Go ahead.
KFC.
Yes. Okay.
When I first tried the KFC chicken, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever tried. Was there something for you when you first came to America?
When I first came to America and being with my first adopted family, she had me try like fast food and French fries, and she would give me French fries. And at the time, I'd like throw it out the window because I thought they were so disgusting. But honestly, they grew on me. And then when I first came to America and being with my second family, I'd always just ask for French fries. I'm not sure why. It was just so different to me. And, in Russia, I remember having Cheeto bags with ketchup in it. And I remember coming to America and they would buy me Cheetos and I would just rip the bag open because I was expecting ketchup. I don't know why that happens in Russia, but that was something I wanted so badly. And
I think in Russia, the ketchup is in the bag.
Yes. You have to like rip it open and you can get it. Yes,
I remember now. That's such an interesting memory. What was the, if any, misconception that you had about Americans other than that they're gonna kill you?
I think that one was the biggest.
That takes the cherry.
I think what else? I really had no idea anything else about America. It was like a foreign land to me. I had no other idea. I think was surprised that people were nicer. Just because being in Russia, everybody at that time was quite harsh and things are you don't smile and you mind your business and you don't care about people necessarily and people are just so caring. I remember landing in America, going to my second adopted parents and they had signs. They were so excited to welcome me and I felt so happy because everybody else in the airport was so happy for me and they were just either crying or clapping and things like that. And that's definitely something, going to see in Russia. So I think how kind people were definitely shocked me.
Yeah, I think people would say, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you acting like this? I remember I think it was in the subway in Moscow and I had a heavy bag. And this guy came up to me and he said, can I help you with the bag? He was very persistent. And I said, get away from me. What do you want?
Yes.
That is certainly being happy, being smiley is certainly not the norm, I would say, in Russia.
Absolutely not. And I had to really accustom to, I think, being in American culture and smiling. I didn't smile for a while. And my adopted parents would always tell me to smile. And in school, they would tell me to smile. And I would just not smile because that was all I was used to. But yeah, of course, I can't stop.
Yeah, people used to tell me when I first came here, what's wrong? You're in a bad mood? It's like, no, that's my face. Yes. That's just me.
Our culture is so different.
Yeah, very different. When did you go to school first?
I went to school, I would say like in the orphanage, my first kind of experience with school. And then I went to school whenever I was adopted by my second family. And they put me in 5th grade because I was supposed to be in the 6th grade, but I'd really not spoken really a word of English. And I think 5th grade, I did a lot of flashcards, learning English words and a lot of just English learning that I was doing. And then 6th grade, I went to middle school, and that's when I was able to actually have proper proper learning like every other child.
What was your experience as a foreigner going to American school?
I think I was very lucky. I think I even hear now a lot of children get bullied and things like that. And I know I stood out so much. I think people in a sense were a little bit the children were a little scared of me or something because I was quite serious.
Maybe they also thought that you're gonna kill them.
Maybe. I mean, I was just so different that everybody left me alone. Nobody really bothered me. I wouldn't say I really had friends necessarily. I think people spoke to me, but I think people were a little like not sure of me, so they really didn't mess with me. And I think Russia, just altogether in America, is such a specific tone to it. Everybody thinks that, Russia's so bad or this or that. And so I think people were a little unsure of that, yes.
Maybe they also thought that you have a big brother. They're gonna
Maybe.
kick their butts.
I wish.
You never had any siblings, right?
I do. With my father and the marriages and things they had. I only had met 2 of my brothers. I know I'm sure I have more in Azerbaijan, but yeah, he had a wife who was living in Pskov, the big city that my orphanage was in, and he had a girlfriend there as well named Marina. And the wife, my 2 brothers, I have a brother that's the same age as me, which is I'm 28, so he's 28 at the time, and I had a brother that was a few years younger than me. I'm not really sure how old he would be right now, but so I've met them. And I remember one time on one occasion, my adopted father, I'm sorry, not my adopted father, my real father actually came to the orphanage and he had picked me up to meet them. But then he like left very quickly and his wife was quite terrible to me. I'm not really sure why she had any kind of hatred against me, but she didn't treat me so well and I went back to the orphanage. But his girlfriend, Marina, I was very close to. She was amazing to me in every single way. I hope to maybe one day have the opportunity to thank her or anything like that.
Let's go back to the time when you were adopted by the second family.
Yes.
So you started to learn English little by little and you went to school as well.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the time when from the moment you were adopted by that family to the time that you went into high school. Like, again, going back to your age,
Yes.
very sensitive time.
Yes, absolutely.
So what was that life period like for you?
It was very difficult, not only me being a teenager, but me being a teenager with so much trauma and so much happening. And I felt my adopted parents were never a good fit. I had my adopted father, and he had 3 sisters. And one of the sisters, as soon as I was adopted, she thought it would be a good idea to go to Russia and adopt 2 children. And so she went and had done that. And so I ended up having cousins that were also adopted from Russia, which was amazing to me because I thought we could have a good bond and connection. But my family, my adopted family, and my aunt, they were so against us speaking Russian. They were so against us being reminded of our culture and wanting to forget that. They just felt that, and I think other people feel that way as well.
They were American, right?
Yes, yes.
Like not Italian, not French. Like
no. I mean, the whole family was completely American. But I think I've even experienced it since then. I feel like because I have such a rough story in Russia, people are very confused as to why I love my country so much and why I'm so for it and why I want to have that culture in my life forever. And so I think they felt the same way. They felt that because I had such a horrible upbringing and everything, why would I want to speak my language or have anything to do with it? But so in a way, they really forced me to not speak Russian. I had no way of speaking Russian. Anytime me and my cousins would speak Russian, we would always get in trouble and they would never bring us together to give us the opportunity to speak Russian. So I really lost my Russian very, very quickly because I had nobody to speak to and they wouldn't give me any kind of resources to.
Was it like, guys, I want you to practice English more. Can you not speak Russian right now? Or I don't want to hear you speak Russian, period.
No, I do not want to hear you speak Russian, period.
Oh my God.
It was very, very strict like that. Yeah, they just really wanted me to forget who I was and where I came from. They really wanted me to really embrace being an American, which is an amazing thing. But to me, that's just not who I am. That's not my personality. It's not my mentality. That's just, yeah, I really love where I come from. And that nobody can ever take that away from me.
Do you speak Russian now?
I speak very little amount of Russian. Just because, of course, having forgotten Russian through that experience and then being on my own from 16 up until now, all the places that I had lived, besides maybe Miami or here, there was a Russian population. But even in Miami, I really didn't have a close Russian circle to speak to. And now only here that I've moved here 3 years ago, I have an amazing relationship with somebody from Georgia, and they have a lot of friends who speak Russian and things. So I'm
Oh, I
really a
love Georgians.
part. Yes, so I'm really a part of the Georgian. I'm sorry, not Georgian, Russian speaking culture, whether that be from anywhere in Eastern Europe or Georgia or the Caucasus or anything
Yeah.
like that.
When you went to school,
Yes.
you are now in a situation where you're not allowed to speak your language.
Mhm.
I mean, you still remember your culture and you still have that emotional tie to the country, but you
Yes.
are now almost, I don't want to say forced into this assimilation, but everything is created for you to be assimilated as fast as you can.
Yes.
At any point, did you have any identity crisis?
I did, and I was very confused and lost, and I think that's what got me sent to boarding school. Yeah, just being so traumatized and being a teenager and being told no, 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 you have to be this way, you have to be that way, and they really, I just think that my adopted family was quite cruel to me, in the sense that they put me in a bubble, and I couldn't really go outside that bubble. There's nothing wrong with going to school and getting married and having a child and doing all of those things. But to me, I've always wanted more than that. I wanted to have freedom. Freedom was the most important thing to me because I never had it. And I felt like they really put me in a bubble that I couldn't leave to. And because I was somewhat rebelling against their wishes, that's why they sent me away and really wanted nothing to do with me because, yeah, I wasn't accustomed to what they wanted.
I mean, that's rough,
Yeah,
Violetta.
absolutely.
Not only you're losing your identity, but you're also almost rejected by your family.
Mhm.
When you had that amazing experience in the beginning, I mean, it must have been, I'm not even exaggerating, catastrophic for a teenager
Mhm.
to have another family now and be sent away. What helped you emotionally to ground yourself and to find strength in those moments?
I really didn't. Nothing helped me find strength. At that time, I was severely depressed. Um, I had attempted suicide. I mean, till this day, years later, my arms are covered in scars of me cutting myself every single day. All I wanted to do in that time was to end my life and to not be here. And um, I focused on that for maybe like a year. I was so severely depressed. And I think that also kind of drove them to send me away because they didn't know what to do with me. And they would send me to psychiatric hospitals, which was, I think, beyond where I need to be just because it gave me more ideas of how to harm myself because that was really all I wanted to do at that time. So I definitely not have any good coping skills at that time, which I wish I would have so I wouldn't have these scars for the rest of my life. But that's the way that it was.
Did you have any connection with your grandma at that time?
No, my babushka Maria and my babushka Nadia died very closely together right before I was adopted. And that's why I think my adoption period was so difficult. Also, just because I lost my whole life. I mean, when my babushka Maria died, I still remember that feeling. It was just the most isolating and horrible feeling in my life. She was just everything, and everything that I do today and will forever do is in her honor and in her memory. So
Oh,
at
that's
least I have that.
beautiful.
Yes.
What was the best thing about her that you want everybody to know?
I think she was just a woman that I don't think I could ever truly be. She was so resilient. She was so strong. Everything that ever came at her, she would just always, always overcome it with so much grace. I mean, we had the worst, most terrible life, and she had nothing to give me to herself, to anything, but she never made me feel that there was any problem, that there was any trouble. She just was like my ray of sunshine forever. And I think she was just the best in everything.
And for the context, because she was handicapped, it's
Yes.
not being handicapped in Russia and being handicapped in America, it's two different things,
Yes, absolutely.
especially back then.
Yes.
You have almost zero infrastructure to
Mhm.
um, navigate around the town or the city that you live in.
Mhm.
And in general, you feel highly isolated.
Yes.
So, I mean, huge props to your grandma, despite the circumstances, to making you feel so loved
Absolutely.
with the little that she had. I mean,
Sh-
that's incredible.
She was very lucky. I think there's like a program somehow in Russia where if you're handicapped, which I mean, she had a really bad injury when she was young and she was on crutches her whole entire life. So, of course, she couldn't go to the store or go anywhere. So, there was a truck that always came every single week and brought us groceries that she could purchase and things like that, which I think is such a cute little idea
Yeah.
that's one thing that America doesn't have.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'm not aware of that program, but
Mhm.
I'm glad to hear that there was one.
I'm not really sure how it was set up, but I'm so happy that it was.
Yeah. So you were sent to a boarding school.
Yes.
At any point, did you feel like there we go again? I
Uh,
am in orphanage-like environment. I
oh,
am constrained again.
absolutely. And it was just so disappointing for my adoptive family because all I ever wanted when I came to America, all I wanted was just a mother and a father. And my parents were very well off and they would just buy me all of these things. But all I ever seeked was just to be loved. And I think they really betrayed me with having their own child when that was something that was against my wishes. Um, Not that, of course, my wishes are everything, but it was so important to me in Russia. And I do feel like they betrayed me in that sense. And of course, just giving up on me whenever things got tough or difficult. And I didn't really feel like they fought for me at all. But I wasn't also super surprised because from the very beginning, I felt their intentions were wrong for having me. I don't believe that they,
Also,
I just, I don't believe ever that they adopted me to love me or to really like make me a part of their family. I always felt they're both lawyers. They're both very well off at that time. And I always felt like they paraded me like a trophy. It was though the attention that they got from their friends, their business associates, was as though, oh, like you guys are so good for adopting this poor little Russian girl. It was very much around that I'm just a poor little Russian girl and I got saved and they're the best thing for saving me. But um my day-to-day life in the home was not something that was good or nice. And I mean, even my first like 2 weeks in their home, I would be hysterical every single night because I just didn't even want to go to sleep. I truly, my first adoptive family that I was with, I really felt cared about. This family, I really felt truly felt like I was going to die or they were going to kill me because that's why I was so hysterical every single
and you were
night.
like, they were right in
Absolutely.
the orphanage.
And they had made videos of me in the first couple of weeks where I would just be hysterically crying. I mean, I was really like, I was so unwell. And at one point, I want to say I was like a couple years older when everything kind of settled down. I settled into their home. They put it on for me and they thought that I would find that funny. And just things like that really made me realize that there was no real care or concern, especially with them having their own daughter and me really being so open about it in Russia that I really didn't want any other siblings. I think just everything that I had said, all of my wishes were just not met and they were gone against. And the whole situation was just negative, and I'm not really sure why it even had to happen, really.
Did your sister go to the same school as you?
No, she was a baby. I mean, I, at the time when I first went to school, I was probably like, yeah, 12, 13, 14, everything. And she was just born. So she was a baby. So,
Your cousin?
no, no, no. My adopted parents had had their own child.
What about your cousin?
My cousins, no, they didn't go to the same school. We lived on different parts of the city. And of course, they kept us separated. So we couldn't speak Russian or really have a relationship. So, um, they had very unfortunate lives up until this point, that I don't keep in contact with them, but I would love to. But their experience are completely different than mine and much worse, unfortunately.
What was your experience like in the boarding school? For
Um,
someone who,
mhm.
meaning me, who knows
Yes.
nothing about the boarding
Yes.
schools in America,
Uh-huh.
could you explain to me, like I'm 5, what is it like to be in a boarding school?
I had really no concept of what it would be like before I came. I was in a boarding school in West Texas, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert. It was in a very small town called Alpine, and you have my huge boarding school, and then there'd be like two small little towns. So you're really desolate in the middle of nowhere. And this boarding school, you pretty much go in and they assign you to a group. It's all like Native American tribe names that you have. So my group was called Cheyenne. And these
It's a beautiful
groups,
name.
yeah, it was nice. And there's these groups of girls. You probably maybe have like 6, 7, 8 girls, and you're stuck with this person, with these people for as long as your stay may be. And there's also boy groups, but we're not allowed to speak to each other, really have any kind of communication. And so once you're in that group, you stay in a dorm. And I do compare it very much to like, I want to say like a jail or a prison, just because we didn't have the cages, but everything was so regulated. And we had to wake at a certain time. We had to do all of our chores. And it was like a therapeutic boarding school. So we had a list of 12 problems. So that maybe you have an anger problem, you have an insecurity problem, you have an authority problem. And so every single day we're always pushed to call what we call groups. and you just talk about your emotional, maybe you didn't listen to your parents and this is why you're here, and you might be insecure and this is what you should work on. But honestly, it wasn't as positive as it could have been. I felt like the staff a lot of times really just found a reason to just kind of put us down and things like that. And of course, like all of us girls, I mean, we're in the prime years of our teenage years, and we are angry and we are teenagers and everything like that. So putting us together with a bunch of girls, I mean, we're also just so frustrated and angry at each other and things. So it definitely wasn't a positive experience just because we're always fighting against each other, and I can't give a girl good advice if I just hate being here also and I hate her and everything like that. So it wasn't the best. But otherwise, the boarding school, yeah, was really regulated. I mean, we were very strict. And let's say a girl didn't want to get up that day, you'd be stuck into a dorm. And it's, I feel like my boarding school is so hard to explain just because it was, yeah, so controlled, but it had such a negative energy around it all the time. It was really meant to make you, it was really meant to like break you and to a point where maybe you could change your actions whenever you come out into the real world. And so I was there for 18 months. I was definitely the unluckiest one. All the children there, they could have visitors. Their parents could come and do a furlough, which is where for a few days or something, the parents could go and take their child back home and they can experience home and they have to go back to the boarding school. But of course, my adoptive parents um, definitely weren't for that. And that was even more disappointing because my adoptive parents did so well. They had a plane, and my boarding school, compared to where we had lived in Houston, was maybe 30 minutes for them to fly over on their jet when pretty much people from Maine would drive over to Texas, and it would just be thousands and thousands of miles to come and see their child. And my adoptive parents didn't make any kind of effort to see me, to take me on a furlough, to do anything. It was just ridiculous phone calls of saying what I'm doing wrong and things and that. And so, yeah, I mean, my boarding school, I wish there was like a movie about it or something because it was really, it was strange, just completely strange. Yes.
How many years did you spend in the boarding school?
Yes, the 18 months that I spent there.
18
Yes.
Did you also have school while you were there?
Yes, yes. So it was a lot of just, we'd have our routine in the morning. We'd have like, you could call the therapy sessions all day, every day. And then we had a professional therapist that we would go see. And there was school, and then they would force us to play like 2 sports a day. So, I mean, honestly, they would tire us out every day.
So, damn, that's coming from an orphanage to another orphanage, from a family to another family, and then back to a boarding school that might feel like an orphanage. What were your life aspirations at that time?
I just really, from my boarding school, I wasn't really sure because I really had thought that if I had done all the right things, which I did, I followed all the rules and I was always in the best shine of all of the staff, and they told me to graduate high school by a certain day, which was like my birthday, and I had done everything that they wanted me to. I really thought that they would take me back and that I would have some kind of stability in life, but they told me they wanted to do with me. So that became even so much more uncertainty. And so I was just so scared to go into the world alone. At that time, I was 18. But I don't know, I always just have this feeling inside my heart that even when I felt like I was pushed down, I always felt, I don't know what I wanted. Of course, now I know everything that I want, but I think I just wanted to be myself and I wanted to have a beautiful life and I wanted to prove my adoptive parents wrong because I mean there were so many times that they would tell me that they would expect to find me in a ditch dead or something. So I mean they were very negative in that sense and I really want to prove them wrong and I think I have. So
What happened after the boarding school?
the boarding school, of course, they told me they wanted to do with me. I had just turned 18, and then 11 days afterwards, when I was released. And in my time in the boarding school, because my therapist had known that they were no longer going to take me home, he had kind of looked for programs that may fit me somewhere I can go. So I'm just not completely like stranded on the streets. And there was a place called Job Corps, and you had different kind of career things that you could start. So you could be a painter, you could be a cook, you could be a police officer, all of those things. So I went to school in Roswell, New Mexico, and I had taken culinary school at that time. And so that gave me a little bit of a purpose, even though that experience was very, It wasn't like the worst, but it also wasn't the best. But it gave me some kind of purpose to do something than just feel sorry for myself and what had happened to me.
Did you learn how to make Russian dishes?
No, we just learned how to make basic American things. But honestly, I'm like a self-taught cook. I culinary school. I mean, we honestly didn't learn that much. It was just a lot of delinquents that were there, and they were just always causing, wreaking havoc. And so, honestly, we didn't really learn that much.
What happened after the culinary school?
I went. I stayed with some friends there in New Mexico, and then I I got into a really specific relationship when I was actually at the end of like my culinary school experience. I had met a boy who was a little bit older than me. I was 18. He was, I would say, like 24. And because I was so brainwashed in my boarding school and I was so isolated from boys and things like that, it felt very weird, but it was really nice to have attention. And so this boy, he had some kind of infatuation with me and then he began to like me. And he began to kind of try to have me leave my culinary school before I had even really graduated. And so he succeeded in doing so, and he moved me to Albuquerque into a house, and that began to be the most abusive relationship of my life that I could probably ever imagine to be. Now that I look at it, I think he was really grooming me in the sense of just, I think he saw that I was weak mentally and I had nothing else. I mean, I had nobody completely being at that culinary school, nobody to talk to, nobody could call. And I think he really preyed on me because of just the kind of person that he was, um, being an abuser. And so, yeah, that's what happened after, yes. Mhm.
How long you were in that relationship?
For about a year, but it was really, really terrible. I mean, I was held hostage a lot of that situation. He was really a terrible, terrible person. And till luckily I was able to get some kind of help and break out of that situation with the police. And then I got into another relationship after that just because that was all I really knew. I just had no other way of, I mean, people could say, you could just kind of work and get an apartment, all those things, but I was so young and I had nothing to my name and I had nobody really to support me. So the only thing I really knew is to get into another relationship, which was better. And all of those things, any relationship that I've ever had, it's just been a stepping stone for me to get higher. So, I mean, honestly, now everything has always been more positive. But I really learned from that terrible relationship that I had, um, just what to look for. I think I really, because I was so brainwashed in boarding school, I think I really came into reality a little bit during that abusive relationship. And because at the beginning I was like, oh, it's normal. It's okay. He won't do it again. It's okay that he pulled a knife on me. It's fine. Like he's just protective or something. And I would make so many excuses until a point where I really woke up and I realized this was absolutely not what my life was going to look like.
Was he American or was he Russian?
He was American.
What was the relationship that you had after him? And where did your life take you after you ended that relationship?
My relationship began with somebody that I actually gone to boarding school with. And even though we weren't really able to have connection in the boarding school, I had known of him. He was somebody very nice. And so that was nice because I felt some kind of security. And so I came into a relationship with him. I moved to Arizona. And that experience was nice. I mean, we were young and we were poor and we really had nothing, but he had a really nice family. And I just felt it was just the kind of security blanket I needed after the experience that I had. And till this day, I mean, we've had a friendship um, outside of us being in a relationship that was such a long time ago. We were so young, but it's just that connection. Even from my boarding school, the best thing that ever came out of it is I have my best friend that we're friends now till this day. We've been friends for about 12 years now. And so I've had a couple of connections from my boarding school that have probably been the most positive thing out of there. But I'm so thankful for that because those people are so special to me.
While you were in that second relationship that was better than the
Yes.
first one, what were you doing your career wise, or what were your aspirations at that time?
At the time, I definitely wasn't working any job. I think we were just doing what we could at the time. But aspirations wise, I knew that that wasn't going to last forever. And I really wanted, I don't know, I just really wanted to find myself. I really didn't know what that was. I didn't really know what career I ever wanted to do. But I really just want to find myself. So that was my biggest goal, to just, yeah, just feel better, and yeah, just feel better about myself. So maybe I could find some kind of way of finding a journey.
What was your initial instinct? What should you do for career?
I don't know. That was such a question, even till this day, that I have a really difficult time answering. I think now, over the past few years, I really realized that I would love to be some kind of entrepreneur. Before, I would always say I don't ever want to own a business. I don't ever want to do that. But now that's all I strive to do. I'd love to own businesses, be an entrepreneur, and be yeah, it's pretty much a girl boss in every single way. But back then, I I had no idea, honestly. People would ask me, "What do you wanna do?" And I always felt guilty that I didn't know what I wanted to do, but, um, I just wanted to be free. I always told people I just wanted to be free, because that's just the most important thing to me even now.
Have your parents reached out to you anytime from the moment when you were discharged from the boarding school till that second relationship? I imagine you were around 19 at that time, 20.
No, I really had no contact with them. The only time I really had contact with them, of course, was in my boarding school, and then the day that I was discharged,
Hmm.
um, I went to the culinary school. I mean, there was also dorms, so you lived there. It was kind of living situation environment, and I was so scared. I mean, I saw people doing what teenagers would do, maybe drinking or smoking weed or things like that, and that was so crazy to me, because I was so isolated in my boarding school from anything that was normal, that I just became so scared. Now I remember just crying, and I called them, and they weren't like necessarily mean to me. They were just kind of saying, "You're gonna be fine." Like, it wasn't like they were offering me any assistance, but like, "You're gonna be fine." So that was pretty much like the last time that I spoke to them between then to any of the relationships I've had, because I felt like I don't I'm not going to receive any kind of help. But I did have a connection with my adopted brother. I had an older brother. He was, I want to say, close to 30 at that time. And he's the person that really saved my life from the abusive relationship that I had. He was the one that I was able to be open and honest about. And he was the one who called the police and had the police come. And I no longer have a relationship with him. And I haven't for a very long time, but I did at the time.
How long did the second relationship last?
Um, how long was that? I want to say maybe like a year and a half or something. Yeah. And it just ended because we were both very young, and I was this person's first girlfriend, and somewhat my first boyfriend too, just because I don't believe that that experience, the abusive one, was really a good representation of what a boyfriend girlfriend should be. And yeah, and then I moved all around America after that, just kind of doing any kind of job that I could. And and yeah. Mhm.
Being from an orphanage and from another country, how did it influence your ability to be in a relationship?
I think very much so. I think even now, I definitely am not perfect in any single way. I definitely have a lot of problems even now that I think I take on from what I've been through. I definitely see that what is the word that I need? Not necessarily like validation, but some kind of idea that the person really cares about me. And of course, that's like normal in a relationship to have to for somebody to want to feel cared about. But I think for me, it's like a little bit more just. I think I have issues of just not having a mother and a father, and I think I bring that into a relationship. I think just feeling like I am needed is very, very important. I think that's important in a relationship, but I think from in my sense, I think it's maybe been a little too much in certain relationships. Maybe now I'm a little bit better for sure, because I've grown up a little bit more. But before, I was just really needing of a person to really prove themselves, and kind of always testing somebody like, why do you love me? Because I never felt really loved before. And that can be really difficult for a person that may have never experienced anything similar to me. And so that's definitely been a toll on that.
After your second relationship ended, were you seeking another relationship or what happened after?
Trying to think, what did I do? I had actually moved in with my best friend in Pennsylvania after that second relationship, and we all lived together for only a little while. And I'm trying to think where else I went. Then I went to Texas, and I wasn't necessarily in a relationship. It was like one of my friends from middle school that I had become really close to, and he just really always felt so bad for me and my situation, and so he provided me with help in any way that I needed. Um, and so I had done that, and then From there on, I really needed a job because I really, in between all of these periods, I really had no money to my name and I was just doing all that I could to make some kind of money. And then after that, I had come across an opportunity to be in the adult film industry, which was something I never wanted to do, something that I regret for the rest of my life. But then that's what moved me to Miami. And that's when I feel like my life really progressed, even in a negative way, but in a more positive way in terms of financially, when I was able to really make some kind of money and then do something with it to get to where I am now.
Oh, why do you say you regret it for the rest of your life?
Because it just really is really never something I wanted to do. It was just like I felt like that was my only choice, and I honestly didn't even know I was going to do it. I was looking at ads, and it was pretty much saying like modeling and maybe some kind of nude modeling and things like that, and so I really didn't know that it was going to be the industry that it really was until I got there. But I really just didn't want to do it, and I had nothing else. I had no really help. I mean, of course, my friend was doing all he could, but I really needed to be independent. I really felt that. And so, yeah, I needed money, and that was just the best way for me to take care of myself. So I definitely regret it because it has affected my relationships. It's affected the people that know anything about it, which is pretty much everybody in my life, how they view me, what they expect from me. And yeah, I mean, just anybody, my adopted parents, anybody that I ever gone to school with, I mean, everybody knows. And that's not necessarily nice.
Have you ever gotten comments like, I knew this is going to happen to you?
Not necessarily. I think like I remember my adopted sister's husband. I think he reached out to me like as I was doing it, and he was kind of saying he wasn't surprised or something. I don't think he was trying to be derogatory to me.
How did you feel when
Mhm.
he said that?
Um, he was like a nice person. I don't really think he should meant in like such a derogatory thing, but maybe he did in a sense. Um, I mean, at the time, I really couldn't care less. I had to do what I had to do, and I wasn't going to maybe fit into the mold of what was acceptable to them. So it didn't bother me so much because I just wanted to do anything possible to just get ahead. And unfortunately, that job pays a lot more than a regular job. So yeah, I chose the one that's riskier and forever on the media.
So sometimes women say in podcasts and in different videos on YouTube that being having so much attention from men makes them feel validated
Mhm,
and makes them feel loved.
mhm.
Have you felt that?
I think no, not necessarily. I do have a lot of attention, and that's not just me tooting my own horn. I have always been really beautiful, and I feel like there's something that draws attention to me for some reason by men. But I think I really have never liked that, and I think specifically with doing the porn industry, I really didn't want to be famous. The biggest goal for them is to make you famous, to make you this name, for the world to know you. And I was really, really against that as much as I possibly could because I just didn't want any extra attention, especially sexualized attention, to where people just objectify me as an object because they see me in a video where I'm doing something, just to provide and put food on the table.
So for the women that might feel insecure, especially the younger generation,
Mhm.
we are in the era of OnlyFans,
Yes.
that might think that in order to be loved and
Mhm.
improve their self-esteem, really, they have to take off the clothes.
Mhm.
What would you say to them? Does it really work?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, of course, I don't have everything figured out, um, and everything like that, but absolutely not. It feels more degrading to you, and it just paints such an image around you, and those people really don't care about you. So it's just so much better to be authentically yourself, and seeking attention from anybody doesn't matter. It might feel, I mean, the validation, it might be there in the present in the moment, but those people are not going to care about you months down the line, years down the line. So it's not worth for you to do something that you may regret, or do something that is harmful to yourself just for the attention of somebody for a month or two, or maybe even less.
I was talking to my friend yesterday about this. What does it mean to be authentically yourself? And I mean, I'm still figuring that out, to be
Of course, yeah.
honest. I think personally, because of the culture that I grew up in, very,
Mhm.
very strong culture, I sometimes wonder the thoughts that I have, are they my own or the thoughts of the generations that came before me or my
Mhm.
family? I want to talk a little bit about this. Maybe it's a philosophical question to you? What does it mean to be yourself?
I think to me, it's just following whatever your heart may say. And I know that sounds very kind of silly in a way, but I think to me, I feel like I'm truly my authentic self. Just because I really do whatever I want, whatever I put my mind to, I have done, whether that is against, I mean, I make a lot of people unhappy in terms of just because I don't fit maybe the role of what is supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. And things like that. So I think just doing whatever you feel is best and whatever is going to make your life, whatever your trajectory of your life, where you're going. I think it just really, you have to just worry about yourself because it's so easy to get caught up in the opinions of other people and what people think about you. And of course, I'm not perfect. I have had people that I care so deeply about. Their opinion really matters to me, but it's a work in progress and just continuing. I'm never going to not continue to do what I want. And I think that's just so important. That's to me what being authentically yourself is, just showing up as you and not really caring about what anybody has to say about it. And I have the most respect, whether that be men or women, who show up and they say, "This is who I am," and you could either take it or leave it. So I think there's something beautiful about that.
So after you realize that, being in Miami, being in the adult industry is not something
Yes.
that you want to do,
Mhm.
when was that turning point for you when you said, okay, that's it?
I
I
mean,
need to try something else.
honestly, it wasn't up to me. I was in a situation where I was severely injured. I was doing the industry and I had pretty much done the industry for about 8 months. I had shot a lot. I'd felt some kind of um, just I don't know, stability in the terms of just I was making money to where I could take care of myself and things. And I had flown a girlfriend in from New York. She was also American. She was also from my boarding school. Actually, we had met since the boarding school, and we had gone to a hookah lounge in Hollywood, Florida. It was a Russian place actually, and we were there. We were enjoying our company and things like that. And I remember two Russian men who, at the time, were, I want to say, quite intoxicated, came over to me, tried to get our attention. Some One of them had sat next to me, and the hookah was right in front of us, and I really wasn't paying him any attention. And I was really looking at my girlfriend and really just trying to kind of ignore these two people. And he had picked up the hookah and he had dropped it on my legs specifically, to the point where I had burns right here, and then on the very inside of my legs, um, are burned till this day, and I'll probably have scars there for the rest of my life almost. And so, of course, because of that, I had to quit the industry because, I mean, the placement couldn't have been written anymore. I mean, it's just exactly where everything needed to be filmed. So I had to stop it at the time.
So I'm a believer, and not everybody agrees with me, that people don't change unless they have to,
Mhm,
unless the life somehow forces them to change.
mhm.
Do you think if it wasn't for that situation, you would have continued?
I think I would have continued. I have really thought about this too, and I'm not really sure how long I would have continued for, but I think I would have definitely continued because the money was nice and I felt a little bit more free and that I could do whatever I wanted. And of course, I was living in Miami, which was so great. But yeah, I don't know when I would have stopped. So I think even though that situation was horrible, it really helped me kind of move into the next thing.
So when you came home that night and you were looking at your
Mhm.
legs and the burns, what what was the first thought that was going through your head?
I mean, I feel like I was in denial. For some reason, I thought that I could still do the industry, or maybe that this would heal up so quickly, maybe take a week or two and I'd be okay. I don't think I realized seriously how bad these burns truly were until I spoke to my agent at the time, and he was like, "There's just no way that you can shoot," and pretty much kind of told me like, "There's no way that you can do this for a long time. I mean, you're welcome to come back when you can, but you're not going to be able to anymore." So then my of course, my anxiety and my thoughts have to come into what I want to do next because this wasn't going to be a money source that was going to be accessible to me anymore.
Did you lose any friends after you left the industry?
I wouldn't say like in the industry I really had any friends. I mean, I know some nice girls that I even keep in contact with now, but you're really all just. I mean, all of these girls were not in specifically my situation, but also were in desperate situations, coming out of relationships or coming out of broken homes or things like that, to where that they were just trying to do their best too. So we're all just kind of minding our business, but just having very light friendships, if anything.
So some people that are listening might say, especially the ones that grew up in Russia and came
Mhm.
to America, they might argue and say that, well, you live in America, the
Mhm.
land of opportunities.
Uh-huh.
Why didn't you pick something else?
Yeah, that could be easy to say, but at the time where I even had clicked on this ad and read about it, I was just so, I think, I don't know if distraught's the right word, but I was so down and I felt so low and I depressed. And yeah, people could say maybe that's an excuse or whatever, but I just really felt so hopeless. Hopeless is the best word to use for that. I felt so hopeless that I wanted something that was going to pay me enough to where I could get myself out of this bad situation that I was in. And I knew that me working, I mean, at the time in Texas, the minimum wage was like $6 or something like that. And
Oh, wow.
I knew, I mean, having a, I mean, of course, I could have respected myself, respected my body. I would have never been on the internet if I had gone and done a regular job. But to me, I just wanted more. And that to me was the only opportunity that kind of fell in my hands. That was like, you could either take it or not. And
Yeah.
I felt like I had to take it.
So when you heard from the agent that that's pretty much it for your
Yes.
career, who was the first person you talked to about what to do next in your life?
I didn't really talk to anybody. I was with my friend, the one from my boarding school who had flown in from New York. I was with her. We had come to LA. We were just enjoying, but she honestly was also, I feel like she had used me for a lot of things because at the time, and I'm so giving and I'm so kind. And back in the day, I was even more giving and kind. So I really allowed her to have accessibility to my money that I was making from the porn industry and all of the things that I had. So I felt very used. So I was in contact with her about it, but then she really betrayed me. And so our relationship kind of fell apart. And then after that, it had been months after I've been burned. So it wasn't really a conversation to have with anybody else.
Were you throughout these experiences after you left the boarding school, where you did have, I imagine, frequent therapy sessions? Were you seeing any therapist after the boarding school?
No, I had seen so many therapists with my being with my adopted parents that probably given me to like 15 therapists. I had so many. And I had a really bad idea of therapists and psychiatrists and things. I just really thought that you only really needed a therapist if you're crazy. And I didn't necessarily um, think of myself that way. And now, of course, I look at therapy as a very positive thing, and my mindset has definitely changed. But back then, I was very against therapy.
So you are how old were you when you left the industry?
I was I was 21 to like 22, almost turning 23.
Did you also leave the city?
No, I stayed in Miami, and I had lived with my best friend for a little bit. She had actually moved from Pennsylvania to Miami at some point as well. And so we lived together and we had the most beautiful time together. We spent maybe like 2, 3 years together. And yeah, we just had a beautiful life, just doing fun things. I mean, we just we just had a lot of fun. Yes.
That's awesome. What about your friendships? Having the experience that you had in life, how was it developing friendships with girls and with women?
Um, I think quite difficult. I definitely am not someone who has been like a social butterfly. I don't have a lot of friends. My best friend is really the only person I'd say that's really
I
my
say
biggest
that's
friend.
all you need.
Yes. I mean, honestly, I think we have so much similar. Her life is so different. She didn't come from the obscurity that I came from the from such so much of a bad life. She came from a very nice family with opportunities and things like that, but she chose to work herself and make her life difficult. And I think I really always respected that she had the drive to go and get whatever she wanted by herself and not really rely on her family and things like that or anybody to give it to her. And also being from boarding school as well. I mean, we were together, we were like roommates. So, I mean, I saw her go through so many things and she saw me go through so many things. So, that really bonds us forever, that experience.
So you girls went from girls that didn't like each other
Uh-huh.
to becoming
I
friends.
think I always liked her. I think she was a little skeptical of me, but as soon as she came, I just knew we were going to be friends. And actually, at the time too, there was another friend of ours who's also I consider my best friend, but she's no longer here. And we met each other, and we were like the three kind of musketeers. We were so close together. Yes.
That's really lovely. I think having female friends is honestly the most important thing
Uh,
for a woman. And
mhm.
I always look with worry when I see women that are purposely either shying away from female friendships
Uh-huh.
or say, oh, I just get along better with men.
Uh-huh. I like I I'm not opposed to having friendships with girls at all. I just think I'm so different. I don't know why maybe don't attract them so much. I mean, I get along with all girls. I have friendships. Of course, I have girlfriends in Miami that I used to know and things, but it's not as deep as me and my best friend for sure. But I do have girlfriends, and I'm always open to meeting more. I don't know. I don't know why that may be. I just think I'm so different. And I think it's difficult to understand. Of course, if I met me in another person's body, I think I'd also not really know how to kind of go about being my friend or anything like that. So I don't blame people me being a little bit skeptical or not my friend, just because I can imagine it's difficult.
I only have one best friend.
Uh-huh.
Honestly, that's all I need.
Yes, honestly, yeah, that's all you need. At the end of the day, they're always going to be there. So
yeah, and I also sent her bunch of reels. The last one I sent her about our friendship was this one. If you ever feel like you're fed up with me and you don't want to be friends with me anymore, I will show you to the door. And the door is a concrete wall.
Yes, yes.
Where she has no exit.
Yes.
Having a quality person, just one quality person, is sometimes a matter of life and death. And
Absolutely.
I'm not exaggerating. Mm-hmm. Like my best friend, I whenever I talk about her, I get emotional. Okay. I always say that I don't know what I did right in this world to deserve her, but obviously I think I did something right. So going back to your life in LA, you had wonderful 2 years with your friend. When did you decide to move? Did I say LA?
Yes. Yes, Miami.
Okay, reset. Going back to your life in Miami, you had 2 wonderful years with your friend. Yes. When did you decide to move to Los Angeles?
Actually, I mean, I had still continued to stay in Miami. Her and I had a fight. I was with a different friend group and doing other things. And then I had met somebody in Miami that was from the country of the Netherlands, and he took interest in me. We had met a couple times. He'd come to Miami, courted me, but I really wasn't looking for something like that at the time. And I feel like it really came out of nowhere. And my mind was elsewhere besides being interested in this man. But as I've gotten to know him, he invited me to go to Amsterdam. I went to visit him. He had a lovely circle of friends and family and his life and things. He was a successful businessman. He was like a little bit older than me, a few years actually. And so eventually I ended up moving to Amsterdam to be with him. And I had spent a little over a year there. And I'd lived a life with him and learned so much just because he was a bit older. His friends were a bit older. And it was a really good experience for me to really sharpen my tools and, just kind of be where I am now.
So Amsterdam, closer to Russia than America.
Yes.
Have you ever visited Russia?
I have not. And I have always wanted to. But also, I was told for a long time with my adopted parents that if I had went before the age of 18, that they had the ability to take me. Either 18 or 21. I'm not really sure. If I went to Russia. I mean, I'm not sure if they're trying to scare me for me to never go back to Russia, but I had never gone, and I would love to with all of my heart. I would go today if I could, but I feel like I need to have the right support system to go. I don't feel like I should go by myself necessarily. I would like to go, whether that be when I'm in a relationship with somebody, just to kind of have some kind of security, just because I haven't been in Russia in a long time and it's a different world. And
yeah, I mean, it's very different.
Yeah. Yes.
So you got to experience European life now in Amsterdam. I mean, it is. I've never been to Amsterdam, but I imagine it's very different from your life in America.
It was very different, but it was nice. I had actually wanted to move to Europe before I had met this person. I just didn't know how. And then somehow life just brought me the opportunity. And I feel very lucky that this person was a really good person, and he really showed me all of Europe, and because he had the means to. And so I got to see so much and learn so much and be a part of so much. And that was a beautiful experience. Yes.
Yeah, I really like Europe in general. Like, I feel the vibe is different.
Absolutely.
Especially Eastern Europe.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about traveling to Azerbaijan?
I would love to. But I also, honestly, I know a couple people here that are also from Azerbaijan, and they're lovely and everything, but I just don't know so many people to maybe could travel to. I have an amazing Georgian girlfriend, and she would like to go to Georgia.
Oh,
and
you
things, and
absolutely have to visit Georgia.
yes,
I
I would love
mean,
to visit
out of
Georgia.
those 3 countries, I would say Georgia is number 1.
Yes. My boyfriend and his family, when they hear this, they're going to love that because
He's
they-
Georgian?
Yes, my boyfriend's Georgian, his family's Georgian, and they're amazing. But of course, everybody thinks their
I
culture is
love-
the best.
I try to be objective, but I really like Georgia.
No, I've learned so much about the Georgian culture. Of course, not everything, but I love the wine. The wine's my favorite. The food's delicious, and they're just lovely, lovely people. So
Yeah.
I've been so lucky to be in that circle.
And if you go to Georgia, I highly recommend that you take some classes on acharuli,
Yes.
the traditional dance.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's.
I would love to. I think there's a studio somewhere here in LA, and we were going to, but we got so busy. So I would love to learn it. Yes.
Actually, before I leave, I want to go to one of those studios
Yes?
to take classes
You have to
because
tell me how it is.
while I was in Tbilisi,
Mhm.
I was taking classes from the solo dancer from their national ensemble.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it's just dancing, Caucasian dance in general, it does something to your soul.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend.
It looks so beautiful.
Where did you meet your Georgian boyfriend, by the way?
I actually met him as soon as I came to LA. It was just through like a mutual person that we both knew, that I knew of, and he's a fighter, and I'd seen a video of him, so I kind of gave him the ability to reach out to me, and then we had spoken for a good month, and then we had met, and ever since we've been inseparable pretty much. We've been together for about 3 years, and his family is wonderful. His mother is the best. I was telling her that I was coming here yesterday. I mean, they really are so supportive and so kind. I love them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know them, but I already love them.
Uh-huh.
Just because the way I know the Georgian culture is. Well, what about your career?
My career, I think I'm still figuring things out. I've been able to kind of dabble into here, dabble into there. I mean, of course, I love the world of fighting. I, in a way, have always wanted to be with a fighter. So I think in a way, I like manifested the boyfriend that I have now. He's going to be very successful in the UFC and to a big fighting career. I have the opportunity because of that to do something that I like. I've always wanted to be a ring girl for a fighting organization, so I get to have the opportunity to do that. So I'm still kind of dabbling into what maybe I would like. Ideally, I would love to work for the UFC. Ideally, I would love to be a ring girl. That, of course, is not going to be like my full-time job. That's something I would just love to do just because I love that world so much. But overall, I really love being kind of the traditional sense of maybe where Russia or like Eastern Europe is. I really put so much time into trying to take care of him and be what I can for him. So I love that. So even though I'd like to be a businesswoman somehow, I also would love to be the nurturer and the woman, I think, that I respect so much in my culture.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Definitely, that is something that I feel comes naturally to a lot of women from Eastern Europe. I mean, being able to take care of the family as well and the kids is, and I think not just something that it is natural, but I feel like it has to be a priority.
Yeah, of course.
Because you can't underestimate the amount of impact that a woman or a stay-at-home mom makes on the children and the entire family.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a couple of fun.
Sure.
Finish the sentence. Statements. So don't think too much.
Okay.
Just say whatever comes to mind. I wish I
could be a pilot.
It's interesting that
oh my goodness, you told me not to think too much.
I can skip. I can come back to this
skip,
later.
please.
I regret that I
regret that I ever did the porn industry.
I learned that I
learned that I am very resilient.
I like that eyebrow lift. If only I
please come back.
Okay. I never expected that I
could handle so much and keep overcoming each obstacle and without really giving up.
I'm proud that
I'm proud that I am where I am today. Really.
I used to believe that but now I think.
I used to believe that I wasn't worth anything and that I was trash as I was taught in the orphanage. But now, of course, I believe that I am unstoppable and anything that I want can happen.
Wow, that's powerful. Can I go back to the previous ones that we skipped?
Okay.
I think we skipped It's Interesting That No. Yeah, It's Interesting That I skipped that one.
It's interesting that I think have the mindset that I have. I think I don't meet a lot of people with my mindset, and it's amazing. It's interesting that I can have this mindset without being raised by anybody.
I forgot what else we skipped.
I think how something.
If only I
could inspire other people from my situation to do all they can and have a happy life.
And then I have 3 more questions,
Sure.
they can be more in depth.
Okay.
They can have in depth answers. What's the meaning of life?
The meaning of life. I think it's so different for everybody else, but to me, the meaning of life is, just being the traditional sense of what I want to be a wife, a mother, to be a caretaker, to do all of the desires that I have in career, anything like that, and to just be free. To me, the meaning of life to me is to be free and to be happy and to have some really supportive people around you who love you and care for you. And yeah.
What is freedom?
Freedom? I think to me, freedom is just not being locked away into a place without an opinion, without a say, without a chance to do anything more than what a person tells you to do. That's what freedom is to me.
My last question. What is love?
What is love? That's a little difficult because I didn't know that for a long time. I think love is, I don't know, doing all you can for a person. I have done a lot for people that have done a lot for me, and I've also done a lot for people who have done have gone against me. But I think love is to just love somebody and not let their ill intentions or who they are as a person, their character, affect your character and who you want to be.
Was there anything that you wished I asked but I didn't?
I don't think so.
Thank you so much for being my podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.